Uh, Howdy. Welcome to another episode of Inebriated Geeks with Drinks. So I just watched the season 3 finale of Westworld. And holy shit. It's been a weird season. Yeah, very, very strange. So just in case you've gotten this far without realizing it, spoiler warning. I probably won't get too in depth, but because I've only watched the whole series once over the last 8 weeks or whatever. But I will touch on some stuff. So, if you haven't seen it yet, click away. What? I don't even know where to start. So, I think this entire season there was a total of 5 minutes in the Westworld Park. And it was and it was just Bernard, pretty much nobody else, until he finds Stubbs in the underground or wherever the hell they were. But the season, I should probably not bump the table. The season was mostly, Dolores out in the real world. You don't know what she's really doing. Is she trying to destroy the world? Is she trying to save it? I mean, you don't find out until the very end that, maybe she did kind of start off wanting to destroy it and then decided it could be saved. It was crazy. I mean, a very maybe meta. No, maybe, but a commentary on humanity for sure. How much control do we really have? How much free will do we really have? Are we being controlled by, well, in the case of this season, an artificial intelligence who had been using other artificial intelligences to gain information on humans, to make predictions and control them. It's a very interesting premise. And it's come so far since the first season, where it actually was in the Westworld Park. And it really was about the hosts kind of gaining sentience, specifically Dolores and then Maeve. It just felt like a completely different show. hardly any references to the Wild West. I don't know. I'm interested. I can't remember if it was a Michael Crichton book or if he just wrote the original movie. But I'm kind of curious, to know what was it originally more like a Jurassic Park kind of situation, also by Michael Crichton, where it was just that the park malfunctioned and whatnot, or did the original have these social I can talk. Maybe I should plan these videos more. Should I? I don't know. What's the fun in that? Other than me knowing what the hell I'm going to say and not rambling on for eternity and taking long pauses to breathe and think and try to figure out what the fuck I'm going to say. Okay. So we know that Westworld is going to have another season. They've been renewed for another season. But where the hell is it going to go? It's so full of twists and turns. It's unpredictable, which is friggin' cool. I remember the twist at the end of this first season. It blew me away. I didn't see it coming. Maybe you did. I don't know. I'm not you. But I didn't see it coming, and I was blown away. Absolutely blown away. And since then, there's been twists, but nothing as big as that first one, I don't think. So this season brought in a new character, Caleb. Oh god, and I can't remember the actor's name. I always think Jesse Pinkman, which of course isn't his name. That's his character from Breaking Bad, which I still need to watch. I'm sure it'll come to me later. Anyway, he's the new, I guess, male lead in a way, who Dolores, kind of uses for her purposes. But is she using him, or did she pick him because? So did she pick him because she's using him, or because he's an example of what she's wanting to accomplish? I think it's more the latter. Well, they pretty strongly imply that it is, because they have this flashback to his training and hosts and his fellow soldiers, basically getting ready to rape a bunch of hosts who they had just saved or liberated, I think is what the word they used. And he's like, no, we don't need to do that. Which is how Dolores kind of remembered him and chose for him to be the one that she went to. So my confusion, blah, 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 my confusion, as evidenced at the beginning of this video, is I really don't know where this is going to go. It's obviously going to keep going. You know, when the credits roll, I mean, yeah, it feels like it could have been the end right there. But then after the credits, there's a couple more little short scenes. Which make it pretty clear that there's going to be something more. And that was my neighbor slamming their door. Apartment living. Like I said before, we already know there's going to be a season 4. I don't know how they're going to do it without Dolores, or how they're going to bring her back if that's what they do. Because she basically died at the end of this episode. Even though there may still be a copy of her running around, the Hale version certainly is. But she's a very different character, both in appearance and personality. She's gone a little crazy. Not that Dolores wasn't, but she's a different kind of crazy. I think Dolores, she was driven, maybe not so much crazy, but driven. Maybe slightly misguided. So we still have the Dolores, or the Hale version of Dolores, but it's not really Dolores. And Dolores has been the cornerstone of this show. I would say more than just about anybody. She's essentially the protagonist. I mean, I suppose you could argue that Maeve will take on that role to some extent, the protagonist, because she kind of was a secondary protagonist. But I don't know how things will work without Dolores, and I don't know how they can bring her back. And I hope they do, because I adore Evan Rachel Wood. She's really good in the role. She's good in everything else that I've seen her in. She seems like a genuinely good person. So I don't know. I have a hard time seeing the show go on without her. But it could. I mean, during the first season of Game of Thrones, who could have seen it going on without Sean Bean? Speaking of Game of Thrones, I just hope it doesn't go downhill like that one did. Ugh, don't get me started on the poor choices those showrunners made. What a... I love that show. There was some good stuff in the last season. but they totally dropped the ball and fucked up Daenerys. I'm going to say it. And I've read about the plans that they had before they started that got kiboshed and kept them more toward to the books, which was the right choice because their ideas were terrible. Anyway, back to Westworld. So let me ask you, if Westworld existed as a park, or any of the other ones that they've shown in the series or that you can think up on your own. I mean, there was Samurai World and World War II Germany, the Indian, I don't want to say safari, adventure, one of those. If those kind of parks did exist, and you could do whatever you wanted with no consequences, what would you do? Would you be a black hat or would you be a white hat? Would you indulge in all of your darkest impulses? Or would you still try to be a good person? I think that's an interesting philosophical question. And I don't know how I would answer, to be honest. I know that generally, like even just playing video games, where you have choices to do the good thing or the bad thing, for lack of a better word. I generally go for the good. Occasionally, I might go for the bad, but it feels dirty. It doesn't feel right. Like take Knights of the Old Republic, the Star Wars RPG video game. I always went light side. I think a couple of my choices here and there may have been slightly dark side, but for the most part, I go light side. I feel like there's too much bad in the world to add to it, even kind of fictionally, which may be why I've had a hard time trying to write. I have a hard, I mean, I have a hard time knowing how authors and screenwriters and such can put their characters in such horrible situations. It's I can't do it. I feel too close to them. And they feel like people to me. Like or even extensions of myself. Like, I don't want to put myself through that. I wouldn't want that to happen to me. I can't let that happen to one of my characters. That's just, I don't know. Maybe I'll pick it up again sometime. Wait till I'm a little bit more jaded. Because world's trying really hard to do that right now. Let me tell you. Jeez. Anyway, this is getting longer than I anticipated and undoubtedly far too rambly. So, before I go, I can't remember who did this piece of art. I know that I got it at Emerald City Comic Con a couple years ago. This one, though, is by Megan Lara, who's one of my favorite artists. She does a lot of like pop culture kind of art, and I would say definitely check her out. Megan Lara. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say not y'all, and mosey off into the other room because the sun's already down. Till next time.